Hello there, welcome to People, Politics and Power. I am Imoni Amarere in Abuja. In its latest report, the Nigerian National Bureau of Statistics COVID-19 Impact Monitoring Round 5 revealed that the global health emergency had pushed Nigerian households further below the poverty line. The impact of COVID-19 had been more severely felt by the poorest. Working-age individuals in that bracket have found themselves dropped out of employment. With a 9% drop, the NBS says this has potentially serious implications for poverty in Nigeria. And this is because families will find their incomes dwindling, food consumption dropping, and might result to negative coping mechanisms. The NBS report also highlights the fact that this might entrench gender inequality in the labor market as more women lost their jobs and find themselves worse affected. This might be the latest report, but several others before this paint a very grim outlook for Nigeria. The country was labeled as the world's poverty capital in 2019 by the World Poverty Clock, with about 89.1 million people living in poverty. Those figures have since been updated, and Nigeria now has 105 million people living in extreme poverty. The report says that in September 2020, a total of 40.1% of Nigerians lived in extreme poverty. But that figure has changed drastically in less than 2 months. As a result of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on living conditions, it has now changed to 51% of Nigerians living below $1.9, that's $1.90, or about 855 naira a day. The data shows that more men are extremely poor compared to their female counterparts. About 53.1 million men are living below the poverty threshold, while 51.6 million women are also extremely poor. Now, at his second term inauguration in office in May 2019, you will recall that President Muhammadu Buhari promised to lift 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years. Now, the reality, however, is that fuel prices are going up with these attendant ripple effects on the entire economy, including food and transportation. Electricity tariff, though contested by labor, is also on the increase. Since Nigeria's return to democratic governance in 1999, the nation has continued to witness widening gulf in inequality. With a population said to be now over 200 million, Nigeria has not been able to convert its numerical strength to development and locate its place amongst the great nations of the world. It is evident that at the heart of some of our national security challenges is the worsening poverty situation and inequality. This has reshaped the landscape of governance and social relations. Our conversation on the program today focuses on finding a path out of the grim situation. Of course, we'll be asking the question, where does Nigeria go from here? How can we reduce the poverty rate and the inequality in the Nigeria of today? Those are some of the issues we'll be looking at. We will be back in a moment before we move on to our discussion. Stay with us. All right. There were also the figures, the data, the latest data shows that 105 million Nigerians out of just about 201 or 202 million population are living in extreme poverty. That's very grim indeed, and we will be looking at the causes, the causative factors, and possibly measures that are being taken at every level. Government, private sector, individuals, corporate organizations, and what have you, to address this situation. I have joining me in the studio three very eminent Nigerians. First, from my immediate left is Chief Uche Okoli. Chief Okoli is an economist, and he is the CEO, Multi Shelters Nigeria Limited. Thank you so much, Chief Okoli, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're also joined by Adakole Ijogi. Adakole is a political economist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
And also joining us is the country director, Action Aid Nigeria, a pro-poor international organization, NAOB. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. So first, let's engage with the latest figures. Madam Obi, 105 million Nigerians living in extreme poverty. I mean, in 2019, it was about 91%. I mean, 91 million, about 91 million Nigerians. Now, so between that time and now, in a space of just about a year, we seem to have added about more than 10 million. In fact, about 14 million other Nigerians have them now been pushed into extreme poverty, not just poverty, extreme poverty. What would you say are the main causative factors?
I think some of the things that we can immediately look at is COVID-19. COVID-19 came, and then the lockdown. The lockdown took a lot of, we have to look at the fact that about 70% of Nigerians are in the informal sector, or the economy relies on 70%. And if you have such a huge, population, and you are not dealing with it, and you go under lockdown, there are no provisions. We have a lot of people like Uber drivers, you have the market, those who go to the market who depend on daily pays. A lot of them depend on daily income. And these things were taken from them. So for so many months, certain things happened. The other side of it is that, yes, the president said he set up to lift about 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. What are the things that we have done? Where are the areas? What did you marshal out? In this very environment as well, the National Social Investment Program that was supposed to be a quick win, a quick lifting of people from poverty, was now dropped into Ministry of Humanitarian Disaster and Social Development. Even on the women's side, because when you started the address, you talked about women many women losing their jobs. We have a ministry that needs to monitor. We have a ministry that was also doing well in social investment, in social development. It was women affairs and social development that we know. You also moved that ministry into disaster, and there is a lot of disaster that is happening within the country. And so there are priorities that the Nigerian government tried to set. Look at the integrated sustainable development goals, which they now probed, about 7 of the goals that are the priority areas. But where is the funding? And so we need to focus on some of these areas. I think we plunge further into poverty because of some of the steps that we're taking, but COVID-19 was not suspected by anybody. And so all hands on deck. We want to support the government, but we also want to ask for transparency and accountability in this environment. So maybe transparency and accountability would have helped more, but these are some of the areas that has plunged us. And then unemployment, of course, came in. A lot of people had to cut down their staff and so on, and so many more homes are in sadness and in total darkness.
Mr. Jogi.
Yes, I agree with Madam Ene on some of the causes of poverty and disillusionment of many Nigerians. I think that we cannot discuss poverty or the figures of poverty in Nigeria without taking a holistic look at the economy. And the reason I say that, aside the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown, which is as a result, which resulted in slow or shutdown of production activities, there's also the spade of insecurity. You see, economics is not, you don't have, in management of an economy, it's not just break and quench, or you switch off a light and switch it on. If you see employment figures now, it is as a result of inaction of government or bad policy trust or choice of government in preceding years. So you see, it snowballs into what you see now. So they will have this huge insecurity, especially around the Middle Belt and in northern Nigeria, where farming is barely, scarcely going on. Look at the price of a commodity like onions, for instance. People say it's the NSAS protest. I say no. It's as a result of, this is the harvest time, this is the season for such commodities, but it's as a result of lack of production. So you have insecurity, you have the banditry, you now have bad policy trust. I think that one of the things that leadership in this country is refusing to admit. You see, we keep going back to the fact, mentioning the fact that Nigeria was good in the 80s or in the 70s, forgetting that the population has been increasing. Government needs to do more with regards to actually creating employment. Government needs to do more with actually managing, you know, the all facets of the economy of Nigeria. Proper security measures need to be put in place. Proper access to capital needs to be put in place. We have to look at this serious youth purge, youth unemployment, which the figures, among these figures that you reeled out, Oga Imoni, if you look at the youth unemployment in those figures, they're the highest. In that the unemployment figures that you have, youth unemployment, there's about 25 million people willing and able to work but can't find work. People between the ages of 16 and 34. So we are saying that we need to stop paying lip service to the issues of unemployment, to the issues of insecurity, to management of our economy. And all this time will still boil back to one single factor, which I usually say on platforms like this, that it is time for us Nigerians to begin to have that honest conversation about the structure of our nation. Because you can take the best and the brightest and put them in the helm affairs in Nigeria. It will not just simply work. We are running a madhouse government. That is, it can never succeed until we restructure, build new governance models, restructure the economy. You want to take up security, for instance. Those NSAS people, I don't say I don't call them NSAS protesters. I say no, they are NSAS reformers. These young Nigerians were requesting for reformation of the different sectors in the economy. The NSAS protest was just a metaphor what is wrong with the Nigerian state. So I'm saying that while we're discussing poverty figures, unemployment figures, as in looking at the Gini, we economists call it the Gini coefficient, that is the measurement or distribution of wealth within a nation. I'm saying that we need to start building correct blocks. We need to start by restructuring the Nigerian Federation. The way it is right now, it just cannot engender any form of development.
So, Mr. Jogi, we'll come back to the solutions later on, but let's explore some of the basic issues first. Chief Okoli, let's look at the measurement of poverty. Well, this report says that 51% of Nigerians are living in extreme poverty, living below the poverty line because they cannot afford anything, an income of more than 855 naira a day, less than $2.
Anyway, what really happened to Nigerian economy is not peculiar to us, right? The COVID-19 ate up the virus, ate up a lot of economies in the world, starting from America to China to Nigeria. But our own problem, why it hit Nigeria so hard, is that the economy is still, our economy rely on oil. And we don't have control of the pricing of oil. That's a problem. So when it hit, we were vulnerable, right? We did not have enough buffer to take the shock. So that's exactly the situation, Nigeria found herself in. Then let's move forward. Then what do we do from now? The good news, let me be honest. The good news is that from next quarter, from the model we have, in the next quarter, oil is going to hit about $50 and above, right? That will give Nigerian government enough cushion to be able to implement some of the programs they have.
Is that really good news, $50 per barrel? Because the time was just in the recent past when we sold oil for well over $100 per barrel. And I mean, how much of it really impacted on the lives and livelihoods of the average Nigerian?
That is where corruption comes in. But I don't want to sound like a broken record. I want a positive approach to whatever I'm doing in life, right? The truth is that, look at the corruption in the oil industry. We've not addressed it. Nigeria has the highest production cost, right, of oil among all the oil producing countries. Nigeria produces at $17 per barrel. Saudi Arabia produced at 8.38 USD. Iran produced at 9.09, and Iraq produced at 10.07. Can you believe this? Then you ask yourself, what's wrong with us? What is it that we are doing special that others are not doing? Why would our production costs be above others? Because if you work and drop down the production cost to reasonable level, like $10, you still have more money to play to work with. So that's the problem. Then do you know why I don't want to go into these statistics, these figures you're throwing around, right? Because we don't have reliable statistics in Nigeria. So I cannot quote that we have 105 million people out of job, and when we don't even know our number, we don't even know how many we are in this country, right? That is why we tell, the essence of census is not political. People think it's political. It's not political. It's to, segment all these aspects, and that will help businesses like us, right? I'm running a big real estate firm, and we have about, when you include the casual workers and stuff, we have about 2,000 people, we pay every month, right? And we did not lay off anybody. What happened during COVID-19 is that we even give them more palliative, because it's not good to lay off workers at such a difficult time. What companies should have done is to cut down their profit, right? And then make sure that they hold the employment. Government did not come in quickly because there are a lot of structures that are not in place. So the government cannot even come in to help businesses, right? We have not set up a good small business administration. Like when it happened in America, they have to give businesses money to hold employment, right? Not even to create wealth, to hold employment. So government was like picking the bills of the companies so that they don't throw people off to the labor market. So the problem we have is, one, we need to address the issue of census. We need to get our figures right. If you plan without knowing the people you're planning for, it will fail. Just like you're having a party, right? You're expecting 100 people, because you don't have a exact figure. 200 people turns up, then the party will be a mess, because there will be pressure on the food and other things you provide for. So census is very important, and I don't know why we are not addressing it. When World Bank quote and all this, look, just take it, the way it is, because it's mere projection. I'm sorry to say
projection
that.
And estimates.
Because they are not getting their data from primary source. They don't even know our population. So how do they even know that 51% are under poverty line? Right? So all this, we need to get things right first. Get the population right. Then you even know how many people that live in a particular locality. Then in utility distribution, You need to know the number of people you're planning for, like electricity and all those things. We don't know, we don't have it. So I don't, the way I see all these figures, I just look at it. But all I know is that generally speaking, I don't want to use figures. Poverty is real in Nigeria. We can see them, we can see poverty on our street, our neighborhoods. They are there, unless you don't want to see them.
So, as it were, Madam Obi, whether or not these figures are coming from the NBS, Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, or in fact coming from the World Poverty Clock, it really doesn't matter where the figures are coming from. The fact is that there is poverty, and not just poverty, but extreme poverty in Nigeria. And the figures appear to be growing by the day. And in the midst of all of this, you see government policies that seem to aggravate the situation. For instance, the increase in fuel prices. Only last Friday, of course, the announcement or the information came that prices of pump price of fuel had gone up to 170 or 171, as the case may be, depending on where you are buying. And of course, electricity tariff, in spite of the disagreement by labor, organized labor, has also gone up. Now, how are all of these impacting on the day-to-day living standards of the average Nigerian?
You see, it is very sad because it looks like the government is not listening to the voices of the people. Because if there wasn't problem in the first place, you wouldn't have said you want to lift 100 million Nigerians from poverty. And you don't have to go too far to look at those who are poor. All of us on unemployment is like the day you are getting paid, all your money is being shredded. Because you are watching so many members of your family, your neighbors, and a lot of people around you. You are watching a lot of graduates who have been there those who have been there unemployed for so many years. You are still watching them, and you are skinning yourself to make sure that you can make them live a little life of dignity. And you are watching your neighbors dropping from having employment to not having employment. What that means that even their homes are taken from them. And so where lies, what is the government doing about it? When you are looking at the growth, you need to look at your money, fiscal policy and the monetary policy, looking at your growth. Because if you are moving, the kind of plans that you had when you were 60 million or 100 million is not the same. Are we growing with our growth? There are so many things we need to look at. Many of us have canvassed over the years that you should not allow Nigerian textile to die. You had the Asaba textile, you had Aswani, you had so many, Kaduna textile industries. Some of those are, still the industries are just, the gates are locked and the rats have taken over the whole place. And why would a country like Nigeria allow such industries to close down? So unemployment is very key. What are you going to do about it? And the government not being serious, because we have a lot of employments going on without adverts into places like, all the government institutions going on, all the ones that are really good paying, they are having letters from people, or we're even having a lot of rumors to say, let them even prove those rumors. I hope ICPC and the like will be able to go and prove what you give people before you get into employment. Why is there no advert to recommend the breast brains that we're having? And so when we are looking at all of this, it points back to the government. The NSAS that you had, NSAS was not just about ending SARS, the protest. It's not just about ending it, it's about bad governance, it's about unrecognition of the things that the tempo of the people. If you have 62% of your population that are young people, it shows you that you have an engine room for development, and any country will be so happy to develop that. For the communities across the country, we have problems. The poverty is real on the ground. Look at what happened, people accumulating, even the palliatives to be given to people. It was being hoarded. And look at what happens. The dignity of the human person. We need the government to come quickly, to get off quickly and go into, this is not the time to sleep. This is not the time to say, we are bringing out 75 billion and say 25 billion will go, you are going to give 1 million to people. We are even hearing rumors about it already. There are so many things that are not going right. So they need to checkmate the issue of transparency and accountability that is happening. You also have governors who are not paying salaries. You have a lot of people who are not earning salaries, and we want to encourage the Ministry of Finance to publish what they are giving the states and the local government every month, so that we can have transparency and accountability. Where else are we going to turn to? And so there is a lot that is going on that we need to do it right. The looting of the economy needs to stop. The political leaders, we need to be answerable. We will support the government, but we demand accountability from the government. All the decisions that they are making, they need to be held accountable. The next time, it will not be just NSAS. You know, it will not be the young people protesting. Women will protest. Old people will protest. Men will protest. And where are we going to? We don't want the country to collapse. If Nigeria collapses, you know, if it collapses, it will collapse into so many, you know, it's like water that is boiling. It will boil into different directions. We don't want that to happen. The government needs to get up and do something right. And transparency and accountability needs to be looked at. Those who are guilty for the palliatives that they are distributing, that we are finding monies in other, we need to shoot some people in this country. Sorry, but shooting is not the essence. But we need to get it right. Shooting is not, you know, you get into death penalty now. I don't want to pull into that. We are not for death penalty. But people need, sanctions need to be given. And we need to stay alive to be able to do that. So both old and young, how are we accountable to our children?
All right. Mr. Adakole, earlier on you said something about the manifestation of policies long after they had been initiated. And so let's look at what this year is ended by every practical means is ended. We're in the last quarter of the year, and this year as a country we have had to face serious flooding in certain parts of the country, which impacted on food production. How is this likely to translate what will happen in 2021 as far as a crisis, food crisis is concerned, and maybe by the possible ripple effect on other sectors of the economy, the bandwagon effect is likely to have on the economy?
Yeah. Let me start by commenting on the fuel price increase that you asked earlier on. While some of us are advocates for deregulation of the downstream sector, as in to allow the forces of demand and supply to determine the price, the pump price of petroleum products, whether we're importing it or we're refining it here in Nigeria, to allow the market forces fix the price. What is wrong? There's nothing wrong with deregulation. What is wrong with this current pump price increase is timing. And I think that the government, without fear of contradiction, the government is insensitive. The Nigerian economy, coming out of a growth of less than 2%, from recession to 1.something to 1.9% growth, you now had the coronavirus lockdown, stop of production activities in the economy, loss of capital, increase in disposable decrease in disposable income, all of those negative economic effects. And you now go ahead, and of course, when you now add increase in tariff, as increase in stamp duties, you add all of those things, you now increase the pump price of petrol. And then now again, it has increased again. I think that you cannot, what petroleum price is to the Nigerian economy is that petroleum price is directly proportional to food inflation, market prices, because we have no limited means of transportation. So food, pump price of fuel is directly proportional to commodity prices in the country. So I think that the federal government or whoever is managing it, whether it's DPR, it is completely unacceptable. We need a regime structure of petroleum distribution and pricing in this country, because I mean, what is it that we are benefiting as Nigerians? We're not benefiting anything as Nigerians. If you want to subsidize fuel, please subsidize it. But allow market forces to fix the price, but subsidize it so that we benefit something as Nigerians. Now, that being said, To answer your question, with regards to natural events that have happened, at sometime in the year, things like issues like flooding that went ahead to reduce farming activities and all of that. Of course, by early next year, some of us economists have predicted that the Nigerian economy, the MBS put it at what, 6 point year-on-year statistics, negative growth 6.1%. I think that they are being economical with the truth. The economy will certainly go into a recession, most definitely. And the recession that we're talking about, from my own calculation, is over 15% negative growth. If you look at the indices, you see the problem that we have in this country is that we are in managing the economy. We keep building something I call I don't want to use the word voodoo economics, but we don't place our macroeconomic assumptions on economic facts and economic trends. If you look at what has been happening, the COVID-19 pandemic, the flood that you have, the lots of production activities, you look at banditry, you look at kidnapping, you look at the state of insecurity, you look at and then the other side, you look at disposable income, diminishing disposable income in circulation. And you look at all these indices, and of course, the one that even bothers most of us is the income inequality. You have the Gini coefficient, that is the distribution of income within people in society. It is so wide in this country. When you look at all of that, and then you look at the 2021 budget, and you look at the price of crude oil that you mentioned, I disagree with my brother here, saying that the crude will go up to 50%, $50 per barrel. I strongly disagree. Whether you sell, Imoni, you are right, whether you sell crude at $100 per barrel, it will not engender any form of development in Nigeria, because we have seen it. You are right. We sold it for $100 and something per barrel. So what did it do? So what we are saying is that this country will go into a recession because of all these things that I've mentioned. And the funny part is that government or the economy handlers are not taking the decisive steps. It's not coming to make out statement that you're going to create 100 million jobs in 10 years. Those are blanket statements. We need real proof to say you need to get Nigerians to work. And when you, by saying get Nigerians to work, government needs to directly put in measures of empowering these young people, getting them facilities, access to capital, getting them trained and retrained, reducing the gender inequality, putting money in the hands of women in rural areas, giving them access to land to farm. Government needs to clear out areas and give people access to land to start production. We have to just start producing.
Isn't that what the social investment program was supposed to also help to do? And now with the 75 billion or so that the federal government says is setting aside for youth investment, or investment in youth empowerment and all of that.
To do simple mathematics, 75 billion naira, you have 25 million youths. Divide that 75 billion by 2. Divide it by the 25 unemployed, willing and able to work. It is a paltry sum. It's a drop in the ocean. Government cannot produce that kind of thing. Government needs to do is to provide the environment, necessary environment and support. If you are saying that government, for me, I think government needs to inject at least $50 billion annually. That is about 19.2 billion naira annually, to attack this issue of poverty and unemployment, not lip service. The Americans are talking about a stimulus package close to 800 and close to 900 billion US dollars. What is Nigeria talking about? We are talking about a budget that is less than about 23 billion US dollars. We are in.
I want to say something on the fuel crisis just before you go. Sorry. I want to first say that nobody is going to be shot. You know, I'm not promoting shooting. I just want to clear that air, because as an organization, we don't believe in capital punishment. Sometimes you get angry, but I want to rest that, because I want to be part of a solution. ActionAid Nigeria issued so many press releases telling the government not to increase the fuel pump, not to increase the electricity tariff. What an untimely time. What an insensitive period for you to, we came out with facts and told them, this is not the time. Many people have become poorer and poorer, and you are now putting this, the inflation. One of the things that I got to know about this period is, if the Nigerian government, if the leaders want to do something, they will do it. When they brought down, you know, at a point they brought down the fuel prices. We didn't know until I went to the fuel. I wanted to pay for it. They were putting it, I'm like, how can it be? No, this is the amount I used to fill my tank. They did it. And so when they did that without taking our permission, it didn't cause deflation. When they increased it, what happened? A lot of inflations. I think the government itself, the present government administration, they need to look at where we were before they came on board. They need to look at it, because a bag of rice was 8,000. Now a bag of rice is 36,000. So, and what you were paying them was 18,000, and they could buy how many bags of rice? And now you have 36,000. You are paying them 30,000. It's not up to a bag of rice. We need to judge ourselves. Nobody needs to tell us why many people have gone below the poverty line. If the timeliness is not fair. If you look at the security votes of governors, about 1.5 billion. That 1.5, even if you want to improve the schools and all of that, it can build you almost 30, different schools, good blocks and well equipped. If you are using about 50 million, per school, there's so many things we can do. Peace and security is an issue. Yes, they need to use some money, but we need committed Nigerians. We need selfless leaders. We need people to come back. We need the insanity to stop. Thank you.
Chief Okoli, yes. I see that you were a bit agitated when Mr. Ajogi was talking. Yes.
The truth is that economics is not about speculation and stuff, right? It's about the facts on ground. The model we are looking at, apart from being an economist, I'm also a CEO of a company, and we are doing big real estate. So we manage. We know how it's really affecting us. The model that we are looking at picked up the vaccine. It's not Nigeria. It's not about Nigeria. It picked up the possibility of vaccine. So you understand. He picked up the possibility of vaccine coming in January. And once vaccine comes in, right, then it stimulates growth, because people will now be safe or feel safe to go back to work, right? Economic activities will start coming back. People will start traveling. Then oil will be the first, beneficiary of that. That is it. So expect an oil price of about $50 and above before March next year. It's going to happen because of the vaccine. It's not because of Nigerian factor, right? It will help Nigeria because oil is one of the products that gives us our bulk of revenue. Okay, madam, why the fuel price dropped that time? You'll be so. I'm telling you, we're in trouble here. Why the fuel price dropped that time was that oil, because of COVID, dropped to $21. Right? Nigeria is better off with cheap oil. Can you believe this? Because we are not refining. That's the issue. We are not refining. Had it been we are refining, our economy wouldn't have been in this quagmire or a state of shock. Right? Nigeria imports. So we are better off with cheap oil than high oil. Meanwhile, high oil will give us more revenue. So when oil moved back to $42, $41, they have to adjust the pump price because they are importing. Right? And the shortfall in revenue put pressure on our foreign reserve. So federal government started running helter-skelter because most of the transactions we do are dollar denominated, right? And the funny thing is that the criminal economy also is growing so fast in Nigeria. By criminal economy, I mean economic activities not captured in the calculation of GDP. Is growing more than the formal economy, right? The Nigerian currency, our naira, you won't believe this, our naira is under attack domestically. Right? It's under attack domestically. Do you want me to explain it?
Please do.
People were going to the market. They don't need it. They were going to market, buy dollar to keep in the house, in their houses. That was what put the pressure on Naira. During the lockdown, how can you explain how Naira will crash? People were not importing anything. People were not traveling. Right? That is criminal economy. It's going real hard. People buy dollars and keep in their house until they want to do something, like child education. You bring out $5,000 and go to the market and change. That is the criminal economy I'm talking about. And that put pressure on your currency. And that was why everything revolved around that exchange rate. That's why you see prices are going up. Prices of goods and
food prices have gone over 100%.
Yeah.
In some parts of the country now.
Because everything revolves around that forest. Go to the market. Just go enter a Wuse market or Gariki market. Ask the woman, why this tomato, why is it all the woman will tell you, but the dollar has gone up.
Even when he or she is not importing tomato.
Yes.
When it's procured locally.
Because she needs to jack up her price to able to afford the products that are dollar denominated. So that's the connection. I hope I've made it to you, right? She needs to jack up to be able to afford milk and all those things, all those products that are dollar denominated. That's why they have to get it up, right? So the dollar controls almost everything, and Nigerian government is helpless on that because they are not any more efforts because of the COVID, right? But what they have to do now, because there's a silver lining there, is to start planning ahead. Because they're going to make a lot of forests, from January, when this thing turn around, when vaccine comes in play. They have to now attack the critical health infrastructure that COVID exposed. COVID-19 exposed Nigerian health infrastructure, right? And it's just God that saved us to turn the corner. Because what I saw there, and even some government officials confess that what they are seeing, they couldn't believe it. Nigeria has nothing, the health infrastructure was almost, collapsed.
Even when they are the ones who have been running those systems all these many years. But Mr. Jogi, let's look at the possible solution right now. Now, in September, the inflation figures stood at 13.7%, 71%. This morning, MBS has just released the new inflation figures, which now stands at 14.2%. Now, the figures we talked about earlier on, the World Poverty Clock is saying that the target escape rate that Nigeria must meet to escape this extreme poverty is 0.3 people living poverty per second. At the moment, at the current data shows that Nigeria falls short of this target figure. In fact, Nigeria is hovering around minus 4.4 people escaping poverty per second. That's a huge gap. So how are we going to manage this situation with this kind of inflationary rate?
Well, that's a very, very good question, Guy Money. You see, some of us who study economic trends have always held the position that when you look at inflationary trends within an economy, inflation doesn't show up, like I said earlier at the start of this program, just as activities of last 2 or 3 months. They are policy trust or bad government choices of the past. But in this particular case, we have a weeping cow. We can call it the COVID pandemic that resulted to the inflationary trend that we have now. And we can add things like the increase in price of electricity, the electricity tariffs. You can add fuel pump price increase that that happened last month. You can add all of that, and you can even add the loss of economic activities in that 12 days of the protest.
Of NSAS.
Yes, you can add all of that to show that year on year, that this current 14.3% inflation rate as a result of those things. But what I want to discuss here, since we're talking solution, as an economist, I want to say that we should focus attention on the value of the currency. Why I mean the value of the currency, we always put attention, this dollarization of the whole world economy. Everybody, everything is matched against the dollar. I think that as emerging economies, Africa and the rest, we should begin to pay more attention to the value of our local indigenous currency by doing what? By looking at the exchange rate, balance of trade, and also try to move close to the gold age standard.
Now, how do you do that when you have a comatose manufacturing sector?
No, the manufacturing sector, to put it, to speak more succinctly, is not comatose. Yes, Nigeria imports most of our goods, whether they are semi-finished or finished product. But Nigeria has a thriving manufacturing sector, huge enough. But what we're saying that it is not enough when you benchmark it per capita, as benchmark it to our population. But what I'm saying that the value of a currency, what CBN is doing by intervening in the forex market today, to stabilize the dollar at 385 naira. So they are injecting this capital in that particular sector instead of using that same dollar, put it in the hands of commercial banks so that private business can access it. But you see, if you look on access to dollar, money, when you leave this country, whether you're in Ghana or you go to Botswana or South Africa, access to international currency, it is as simple as ABC. It's only in this country, in Nigeria, where to access foreign currency is like going through a camel going through the eye of a needle. I mean, Nigerian currency need to be managed better. CBN is doing some job, but I think that the CBN is spoon-feeding the economy. That is, it is to understand how economy, how the value of a currency works. We economists based on what we call the purchasing power parity. Now, purchasing power parity measures currencies of other benchmarks currency or products of other economies with the production in a different two economies. Now, in that purchasing power parity theme that economists use to determine the value of a currency, I'm saying to better manage inflation, please look at the value of your currency and to say that if we throw it open to CBN intervention, to balance of payments, to exchange to the exchange rate and all of that, we have issues in actually the lives of our people, because once your 100 naira cannot buy you a mudu of gari in 3 months, and then that 100 naira moves to 200.
One piece of onions, right? Right. Madam Obi, very quickly, in less than say 30 seconds, what would be your recommendation? Very quickly.
My recommendations is that the Nigerian government needs to pay attention to the needs of the people. They need to work more. We will support you, but we also challenge you in terms of transparency and accountability, and that the looting of the economy needs to stop, and people need to be held accountable to all the things that they're doing.
Chief Okoli.
Yeah. My own is a statement of hope, right? Because among the fundamentals, core fundamentals of the economy, there is one that I found very strong in Nigeria: the people.
Okay.
We are very resilient.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady. Thank you for your time and for your contributions. Chief Uche Okoli is an economist and is the CEO Multi Shelters Nigeria Limited. He joined us on the program today. Adakole Ijogi is a political economist, of course, a familiar face here on our programs. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And Madam Ene Obi is the country director, Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting
That's our program for today. Join us again on Friday, same time, when we bring you a fresh edition of People politics and power. Until then, thank you for investing your time with us. Bye.